joining us today to learn more about using LinkedIn for lead generation. Before we dive into the content, I wanted to share some housekeeping items to ensure that you have the best experience with us today. Firstly, if you are having trouble hearing the presentation, please ensure that the volume is at the maximum level. I also find listening to the webinar through your headphones also improves the audio experience. There is no phone dial-in connection for today. If you are experiencing other technical issues, please make sure that Flash is enabled and try refreshing your screen or logging back in and out of On24 if you continue to face issues. Something that I always forget to do, but if you're logged into a VPN connection, if you disconnect the VPN, this also increases the stability of the webinar. This webinar is being recorded and we will share the recording within 48 hours after the webinar. On your screen, you will have a number of resources available to you now, including the presentation slides. Feel free to download these now, or I'll also share them when I share the recording of today's session. We would love to hear from you today, so please submit any of your questions through the Q&A portal. We have a team of experienced LinkedIn experts ready to answer any questions that you may have. We've also set aside 15 minutes after today's session to answer your questions. You can do this through the Q&A portal. Please be patient as we try and answer as many questions as possible. Finally, we also want to know how this webinar was for you. Could I please ask that you take 2 minutes out of your day to complete the customer feedback survey? This will also help us improve any sessions that we bring to you and also learn what we could do better. Firstly, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Mandy and I look after customer marketing for Asia Pacific. Today we have two lovely presenters. Firstly, we have Natasha.
Hi everyone, my name is Natasha Saleh and I'm the APAC Education Lead.
And we also have Zena.
Hi, my name is Zena and I'm a Client Solutions Manager in the Marketing Solutions team.
We have a lot planned today for our agenda. We will be covering a broad range of topics to help you get started generating leads on LinkedIn. Natasha and Zena will be covering off everything from content marketing, targeting, ad formats, and measuring and optimizing your campaigns. There's a lot to cover in a short amount of time, so let's get started.
Thank you so much, Mandy. To level set and make sure we're all on the same page, let's talk a little bit about what lead generation is and why we all do it. Lead generation in general could be all about getting people to fill out a form, which is not that hard, I think. But let's say you're getting tons of form fills, but people aren't actually converting. So we'll have to talk more about having a full funnel lead generation strategy in the next couple of slides. But first, here's a glossary of terms that we think are important to lead generation. First, we have CPL, which is cost per lead. This is the amount of money you spend to acquire a lead. Second, we have MQL, which is the marketing qualified lead. And these are leads that meet marketing's benchmark for what is considered a strong prospect. It is usually qualified through analytics like Google or Adobe or requires a lead scoring system. Next, we have the CRM, which is the Customer Relationship Management. And this is the technology used to manage and analyze interactions and data throughout the customer lifecycle. Fourth, we have the Sales Qualified Lead. Now, this is different from MQLs because this is a lead that actually has been vetted by the sales team and they have qualified it as a prospective customer, a lot closer to the buying process. And then we have the lead score, which is a methodology marketing uses to identify what is an MQL. Next, we have the marketing automation system. And this is the technology used to automate marketing actions to improve engagement and efficiencies For example, maybe you signed up for a race and now you're part of the marketing automation system, which means you receive emails every time there's a new race upcoming. And maybe if you respond to a certain type of emails, maybe you respond to 5-kilometer races type of emails, you'll only get 5-kilometer race information next time. And if let's say you don't open that email for after 3 times, then maybe the marketing automation system automatically removes you and puts you maybe as a dormant customer. Lastly, we have attribution. And maybe this might be pretty crucial. This is because this is a process by which the marketing teams can attribute advertising dollars back to a certain placement or channel after a conversion has taken place. Now, this is important because we have to understand the different types of models out there. The first touch, the last touch, and the multi-touch. First touch attribution is great for knowing which channel or placements are actually bringing you net new customers all the time. Last touch conversion is probably the most popular and probably overly used without looking at first touch attribution. Last touch attribution essentially means that this is the channel or placement that is the last channel or placement the customer is exposed to before they end up taking an action that is defined as a conversion. And lastly is multi-touch, which is probably one of the more forward attribution models to look at because they analyze what is the best combination of channels or placements that give you the optimal number of leads for the optimal lead score or quality at the optimal price. So it's not always about what's the cheapest cost per lead, what is the best optimal number of leads that gives you a great ROI in return. Now, content marketing is such a powerful tool for building brand recognition, establishing reputation, educating prospects, and nurturing them so that at the end of the day, generating leads help you to grow your business. Next, we'll walk you through some of the key strategies and best practices for lead generation using content marketing. Now, imagine the scenario where you're at the lift lobby of a building. And once you step into the lift, a gentleman rushes in as well. And out of being polite, you ask him, which floor are you getting off at? And he says, 34, which is also the same floor that you will be exiting at. And then he asks you, once the lift door closes, he asks, what's your name? What's your email address? What's your monthly marketing budget that you currently spend? And then you look at him and you think like, I don't even know your name. Why are you asking me all this information? He's basically asking for too many questions and he hasn't even introduced himself. And then he said, well, this is because I want to offer you an infographic in exchange. But then you ask him, what is this infographic about? And he says, well, I'm still going to need your name. I'm still going to need your email address. But this time, can you also tell me what's your phone number? And then you reply, I don't even know your name. And he said, my name is Jack. And if you tell me all this information, I promise you that my sales manager will not be asking you for this information again. So in this very awkward lift ride, you feel super uncomfortable and you really want to leave. But unfortunately, you do have to take it all the way to the 34th floor. And why you feel uncomfortable and eager to exit is because Jack is asking for too much, for a very unbalanced exchange. He's trying to give an infographic you don't even know about. And he's asking you all this information too soon. And he's asking you for all the wrong things because at the end of the day, maybe you didn't really want that infographic in the first place. Now, unfortunately, this awkward lift scenario happens way too often when we are bombarded by lead generation campaigns. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that the customers that we reach out can trust us and feel comfortable before they actually share this information with you. Now let's look at LinkedIn. What motivates our members to engage with the content on the platform? 60% of our members are motivated to engage when the content is relevant to them. The 57% of them, slightly more than 1 in 2, wants information or engages with information that is educational or informative. Thirdly, they also want to stay on top of the latest trends, and slightly in lower percentages, but equally as important, I would say, is 39% of them engage with content that's inspiring, and 32% engage with content involves and helps them with skills development. Now, before we dive into lead gen, let's take a step back and look at all the stages of the marketing funnel, because they play a very important role in getting your audience to the point where they're ready to provide their lead information. And these 3 stages are reach, nurture, and acquire. It's very important when creating and distributing content that it aligns to the correct stage of the funnel. So think about this. When you have an objective, which is to reach as many customers as possible, or to nurture the customers who have heard about you, so that eventually you get to acquire them to sign up for a free trial or experience a live demo or to set up a meeting. This is all very great objectives. And when you have these very different objectives, you do need to have different pieces of content. So when you're trying to reach net new customers, think about that awkward lift ride again. When you want to reach someone new, you have to tell them all the best things about you. And you can do that through blog posts, infographics, or industry trends. And when people have heard of your brand, when they've been to your website, but for some reason they haven't actually filled out a lead gen form, this is an opportunity for you to reach out to them again, and perhaps this time share a client testimonial or some case studies where after using your product or service, they actually feel an improvement and want to shout about it. Or you can even present white papers to show rigorous research that your company has done to prove that you're a thought leader in that space. And lastly, when they've finally been to your website, when they submitted a form but for some reason have not converted or signed up for an account or purchased your product, this is the time for you to entice them with free trials, live demos, or to sign up for a meeting. Next, we will share tips on how you can create a full funnel content strategy. Now, B2B buyers are researching around the clock, and in a recent study, we found that 69% of people research business products during their workday, 73% are researching during the evenings, and lastly, 51% of them spend time researching on the weekends. It pretty much sounds like they've got no life. But think about this. You really need to be reaching people at every stage of the funnel, because you have to keep your ads live on the weekends and even in the evenings. But what's important is that you have to reach people continuously during each stage. And as they research, decision makers aren't just looking at what features set you apart from your competitor or advantages one has over another. They're looking to really help them evaluate. So in partnership with Edelman, we just released the 2020 B2B Thought Leadership Impact Study, where we found that 55% of decision makers said that they use thought leadership as a way to vet organizations they're considering working with. And not only that, but 69% agree that it is one of the best ways to get a sense of the caliber before they start working with that organization. And lastly, 63% agree that it's important to build the reputation of new and small businesses. So we can see that in a nutshell, using thought leadership as part of your content marketing strategy is a perfect way to influence these decision makers and establish your company's reputation. Now, what is this gate? So gated content is essentially requiring people to fill out their information in exchange for something. And I completely understand. Justifying spend on ungated content can be a big challenge for demand generation marketers because they may be tasked with driving a certain number of leads, and gating content is the easiest way to directly tie spend to results. However, we found that for tech buyers, when the first piece of content that they see is gated, they are also 37% less likely to consider you as a vendor. And they are, get this, 75% less likely to consider you as a vendor if all of your content is gated. Now, I know you know the funnel, but let's take a deeper look. What we should be thinking about is the mindset of the audience, and then create content based on that mindset. Here, we have an example of a mortgage company with the audience mindset on the left and content examples on the right. So think about how your prospects may feel as they consider your services and products and plan for content that matches those mindsets. Next, why does it make sense to run lead generation on LinkedIn? Well, this is where we talk about how LinkedIn can help you with a full funnel marketing approach. LinkedIn today plays a more critical role in the marketing ecosystem. B2B content marketers cite LinkedIn as their most effective platform for content marketing. Now, this suggests that LinkedIn members are coming to the platform to engage more with content. And this is the slide that really summarizes why LinkedIn offers the best-in-class solutions for marketers to drive quality leads at scale to unlock greater ROI, which is return on investment. With LinkedIn, marketers can 1. Target the audiences that matter most to their business, including the accounts most important to their sales teams. Secondly, is how do you convert prospects in marketing and sales qualified leads with a range of ad formats and features. And lastly, is when you can measure and prove the ROI of all your demand gen marketing on LinkedIn, including the quality of leads you're collecting for your business. Now I'm going to hand this over to our lovely Veena.
Okay, great. Thank you, Natasha. So let's chat targeting strategies for your lead generation campaigns on LinkedIn. Now, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the different types of targeting facets you have at your disposal when you launch a campaign on LinkedIn. You can target your content and your messaging to over 690 million professionals based on accurate, complete data in LinkedIn professional profiles. So characteristics such as someone's job seniority, job function or title, company name, geo, what skills they have, what industry they're in, and more. So this really helps you reach your ideal customer persona that your sales team might consider a qualified lead. A couple of quick tips. Job function is based off both current and past jobs, and just be a bit careful when you use age and gender targeting because it's not always 100% correct as we infer this data. Now, this is a really, really great slide for you to quickly take a snapshot of. If you've got your phone handy, take a photo or a screenshot. But basically, these are our recommended targeting facets for lead generation. If you're just getting started on LinkedIn advertising, we highly recommend going broad. There's a lot to work with, but if you try to use too many facets, you'll unnecessarily narrow your audience, which can really hurt your performance. You can use our demographic reporting to help narrow your audience or segment your audiences later. And that way you're making decisions based on actual performance rather than a guesstimation. Now, we really highly recommend aligning your targeting with your lead scoring model. So if in order for leads to become marketing qualified leads or sales qualified leads, they need to be a particular company size or geo, then make sure you apply this to your campaigns when you're doing your targeting. This will improve your lead to qualified lead conversion rate. We'd recommend using company name if you're working with an account-based marketing approach. Company industry is also a great alternative if you know what your sweet spot is in terms of certain industries but don't have specific companies as yet. Now, when you set up a campaign on LinkedIn, not only can you use demographic profile data, but you can also use your own first-party data and match it against the 690 million members that we have globally. And this means that you can engage people who are more likely to convert into qualified leads. We call these matched audiences. So for example, you can retarget people who've recently visited your website, import segments from your marketing automation platform, target the millions of email addresses in your CRM, and even engage people who work at the companies that your sales team have on their target account list. You can even upload your existing database to allow lookalike audiences to find members who have similar characteristics to your existing customers. Combining LinkedIn and first-party data helps you target people who have already displayed an affinity with your brand. Hundreds of advertisers have already found that leveraging their own first-party data and their LinkedIn targeting can significantly improve their cost per lead by up to 14%. Now, for some of you, you'll have a pretty good idea of who your target audience is, but for others, where to begin can be a bit of a challenge. So the LinkedIn Insights tag is a free tool that you can leverage to help you with this. How many of you have the LinkedIn Insights tag implemented on your website? It's a free bit of code that sits on the global footer of your website that you can easily insert using a tag manager such as Google Tag Manager or Telium, and it unlocks a variety of ways that you can supercharge your efforts on LinkedIn. A couple of quick tips. Make sure you've only got one Insights tag installed on your website to avoid any discrepancies with reporting. And if you need an image pixel, reach out to one of your LinkedIn team members and we'll be able to sort you out with that one. Now, there are 3 key reasons why the LinkedIn Insights tag is going to be really great for your lead generation campaign. So first, it really enables you to understand your audience. So using website demographics, you are able to identify who is visiting your page and really tailor a campaign to nurture those audiences towards a lead. It can also help uncover particular job seniorities or job functions or job industries that you really feel like you should be driving a conversation with, but you're not getting across to your page. And again, tailoring a campaign to drive that influence with those members. The second reason is it enables you to re-engage audiences who have visited your page. So really making sure that you're nurturing those key audiences. And the third reason, particularly important for lead generation, is it enables you to measure and optimize your campaigns, particularly using our conversion tracking tool, which is integral to understanding what levers you can pull to really drive more results for your business. And so that brings us to our best practice targeting strategies for lead generation on LinkedIn. First, you're almost guaranteed to see poor performance if you just use one campaign to target professionals in different countries from different industries in unrelated functions, all with drastically different mindsets and content needs. Don't lump all of your buyer personas into one campaign. If your target audiences are all lumped together, you're going to have trouble personalizing your content for each stakeholder group. Instead, make sure your buyer personas are clear and well-defined. Break out key personas into separate campaigns and group together the criteria that make sense, including related industries, geographies, or job functions. This will help you deliver the right messaging to the right subset of LinkedIn members. In a similar way, don't use the same content and targeting tactics regardless of product. It's important to consider how you'll influence the entire buyer's circle. Don't send a C-suite level message to an individual contributor, and vice versa. Rather, think about how you can tailor your content to your audience. Next, don't hyper-target your campaigns. I know it's tempting, especially now that you've learnt about all of the many different targeting facets on LinkedIn, to use every targeting feature possible. However, limited scale will hurt your campaigns. Instead, add 2 or fewer targeting facets in addition to the mandatory location into your campaign. While we're on location, make sure you segment each of your campaigns by region to maximize your daily pacing. Essentially, for each region, you want to start broad for your first campaigns, see who's responding best to your offer, and then narrow in. Finally, finding your targeting sweet spot requires an experimental mindset. Once you've set a campaign live and begin to see results, optimize your targeting to make sure you're reaching your audience most effectively. Try testing 2 similar campaigns with 1 variation in your targeting criteria and see which combination is more effective. To perform an A/B test on your targeting, create a campaign, duplicate it, and then slightly alter your targeting parameters. Change only a few criteria at a time to isolate what parts of your test are actually impacting your campaign's performance. Try testing skills versus job titles, industries versus functions, just for a couple of examples. Keep refining over time and you'll find the audience that responds to content the best.
Thank you so much, Veena. Now, this is a really cool slide, which basically summarizes all the ad formats that we currently have against the objectives you can achieve in a full funnel. So if you're already familiar with our products, it's important to understand that not every product is used in each objective. These are the main objectives you'll be able to choose from. So for example, if you're running a lead generation campaign, Our recommendation is to focus on website conversions and lead generation. So this cheat sheet for you right here is that you can see that if you do decide to run a lead generation campaign, you won't have the option of running text ads. And how do you decide between running a website conversion versus a lead generation campaign is when, for example, on your website, you have a relatively simple form that customers can fill when they want to be contacted by your company. However, if let's say you find that you want to test, maybe every time, maybe a huge proportion of people who've been to your website does not end up converting, you can test using our lead generation campaign, because in this way, you're also able to collect maybe not as many data points, but in exchange for the convenience that they don't have to leave LinkedIn, but you still can acquire their leads. So a website conversion is great when you have a form in place that's working. Lead generation is great for when you are not able to collect leads in your website, or you want to test by having a shorter form to acquire higher quality leads. Single image ads are great and ideal for driving both awareness of your brand and getting the member to convert. And you're already very familiar with this format because you often see it on your newsfeed. This is a great tool for lead generation, especially if you add on lead generation forms. Next, you have the sponsored video format. And it pretty much is similar to any other video formats that you see out there. But what makes it very unique to LinkedIn is the ability for you to add on a lead generation form integration. And I would basically also caution you and while you can have that option of showcasing a video and adding a lead gen form, do understand that the objective of most videos ideally is when you're trying to reach new customers. So when customers do fill out that lead gen form, it's sort of a bit of a bonus. But at the same time, if you do use video formats to acquire leads, so for example, a longer video that showcases a product demo for customers you know have already been to your website, but just hasn't made that move to convert, this is a great opportunity for you to also collect leads at the same time. And because our videos autoplay on mute, I highly recommend the usage of captions so that users can follow along what the video is about and might be enticed to switch on the audio to experience your video in its full theatrics. Next, we have the carousel ad format. And this allows you to tell a brand story, gets you to showcase multiple offerings at once, or really deep diving into one by sharing the insights and opportunities that's available in this particular feature or offer that you have. Now, while we can go up to 10 cards, the best practice is to use up to 2 to 5 cards. And a lot of languages are actually being supported on LinkedIn are available on Carousel. Again, in a lead gen campaign, carousels are well integrated, so you can also acquire leads using your carousel ad formats. Now, here at LinkedIn, we use the carousel ad to help promote a fun ebook. And we found that using the carousel ad over single image ads does help to boost our engagement rate. And we think that's because the ability of the ad format to tell an engaging story through a series of slides. So I'm not allowed to have favorites for ad formats, but if I do, I like sponsored messaging. So sponsored messaging is actually available in 2 ad formats, message ads and conversation ads. And on this slide, I'll be talking more about message ads. And this is where you can actually engage your prospects without worrying about character limits and drive stronger engagement and response than traditional emails. Let's face it, can someone tell me if there are unread emails in their Gmail or any personal email that they use, how many unread emails do you have? I bet it's in the 5 digits. So our message ads are great because they're mobile optimized and designed for easy clicks. Do you see the try fix text today button? That is a sticky button. So while this message was short, but if let's say this message ad was long, even when you scroll down, this fix text today button remains sticky, which means it will always be in view, which kind of invites a very strong call to action. Second is the real-time delivery, ensuring the timely reach. So in both message ads and conversation ads, these are only sent to customers or to the audiences when they are online. So when they're on their LinkedIn app or whether they're on their LinkedIn.com on the website browser, they are able to only receive that message, that sponsored messaging ad. And what that means is that you will not be having wastage. You will not be in the situation where you have 14,236 unread sponsored messages. And get this, because a sponsored messaging is so special that once your audience receives it from a particular advertiser, the next time they'll be receiving a sponsored message will be 30 days later. That means, like I said, they won't have an instance where, one, you get notification saying you have a sponsored message ad waiting for you, or two, you won't have the instance where you have heaps of unread message ads or sponsored messaging, because you only get one in every 30 days, and two, you only get it when you're logged into LinkedIn. So LinkedIn text ads, although it's not a dedicated lead format, text ads can be a very efficient way to drive low cost per click, ultimately creating low cost per lead. Additionally, advertisers who are using text ads, apart from the multi-product approach, have seen an increase in click-through rate and engagement on sponsored content. However, I have two caveats for this. First is that it's desktop only, so we tend to see higher conversion rates. Two, this LinkedIn text ad is very different from the Google text ads. So Google text ads are typically very intent driven. So when someone types in a search term, a text ad appears, and obviously they will click on the text ad that is most relevant to what they're searching for, or their search intent. Text ads on LinkedIn, on the other hand, are actually great at extending the reach, especially if you run a multi-product approach campaign on LinkedIn. Now, this is how we use text ads for bottom funnel objectives, where for our lower funnel campaigns like white paper downloads or free trials in support of other channels that we are currently running on LinkedIn. Next, we have the LinkedIn dynamic ads. So LinkedIn dynamic ads are great because they help you to drive engagement using dynamically generated ads that are powered by profile data and customizable to meet your campaign objectives. Now, what do I mean by dynamically generated ads? You can dynamically generate ads using a user's profile picture, as you can see in the middle example, as well as the profile picture in the last example in building brand awareness. And you can also extract other profile data, for example, name, for example, Veronica, or her job title, for example here, content manager. So this is how you're actually able to extract the user's profile data, for example, their profile photos, their names, their job titles into the ad. And that's how you customize the experience for the user to feel, wow, this is really customized to me. And what are the three objectives you can use first is to drive conversions by getting more clicks to your landing page, your website, or your app. Second is to generate leads by promoting your content on LinkedIn. For example, it could be a white paper that you would like the customer to download. And lastly, you can simply build brand awareness by increasing the company page followers to get more engagement. I thought this was a super cool execution, and not because LinkedIn ran this execution, but I just thought it was out of the box, I would say. So LinkedIn, we use dynamic ads and to add a very personal touch to the event invites that we've done. And instead of putting the users, instead of just extracting the user's profile picture, we also put in our marketing manager, Alex, as our host. And we also, instead of putting LinkedIn's logo, we've actually replaced our LinkedIn logo with Alex's profile picture as well. So then it becomes super interesting because why is my profile picture, in this case, I'm not blonde, but as an example, why is the user's profile picture next to another lady in this particular ad? So it basically piques curiosity of the audience, and as a result, we saw a 326% lift in performance when we use an image of our staff versus our company logo. Pretty crazy, I would say. Next, we have landing page best practices using the autofill button. So once you set up your targeting, the next consideration is how you can convert the people engaging with your campaigns into qualified leads for your business. So LinkedIn offers flexible tools to generate quality leads at scale. You get to use seamless forms that are automatically filled with members' professional information. And these options help you gate your content so that you can get a more qualified lead data and improve conversion rates compared to standard gated content programs. First, you get to drive traffic to your website whenever someone clicks on one of your LinkedIn ads, and then you can embed a free LinkedIn web form on your landing pages that allow members to send you their complete, accurate LinkedIn profile information in just a couple of clicks without ever having to type anything by hand. Now, these forms work on both mobile and desktop. Second, you could also capture leads directly on LinkedIn's mobile app without even having to send traffic to your site in the first place. Now, this helps you collect even more leads at an efficient cost per lead. With just a couple of taps on your mobile ads, your prospects can convert directly within the LinkedIn mobile app while instantly sending your lead record that includes all of their professional profile information from their name and email address to their company name, industry, seniority, and more. And in return, they'll automatically get access to your content. So whichever path you choose, you can be confident that you'll generate a higher volume of qualified leads compared to traditional lead collection tools, thanks to the accuracy of the profile data populating these forms. Here's another amazing case study. When you leverage all the tools in your toolkit, you see 24 times increase in conversions when running sponsored content, text ads, email versus only running text ads. What this shows is that when you have the ability or when you create this experience where the message is in different ways to the same user, they're more likely to stick, and that will convince them to take action. This is what it takes to ensure that your leads eventually become conversions. And this is what will really make the difference of a revenue and a filled out form. Now that you have a lay of the land with our ad products, let's take a closer look at the lead gen form's capability. In the lead gen world, we have to go far beyond click-through rates and engagement rate to the metrics that actually have measurable business impact. And on these is where lead gen forms can help to boost performance. The world has changed to one where the majority of content consumption online comes via mobile, and because people are time poor, they do not want to spend too long filling out forms to retrieve content. #live is short. Lead gen forms help remove friction by auto-populating a lead capture form on mobile, where details can be captured for you, and content can be obtained for the audience member in just 3 clicks. Now that the cost per lead may be higher than other channels, we do admit that, we know that, but however, when we actually measure quality of leads, more often than not, we will come out on top. Now, every marketer in the lead gen space will have core KPIs they have to achieve. Near the top of the list will not be cost per lead, but rather pipeline in the form of MQLs or SQLs. So if your MQL or SQL definitions include criteria around content downloaded or professional fields captured, then lead gen forms will most definitely help enhance your strategies. Now, we have 2 amazing case studies from Binder and from TIAS, and the numbers are pretty impressive. So David Mirshahi, Southeast Asia specialist at Binder, actually shared that he saw a 500% increase in leads generated because he found that LinkedIn gave him the best option for B2B marketing. And he's a huge fan of the targeting and how he's seen how lead gens form work and how it was a real game changer for lead generation. John Van Wilderburg from TIAS saw a 50% overall drop in cost per lead because when he was targeting on LinkedIn, he found it to be as valuable as search marketing. Because of the advanced targeting options, it can have significant impact on marketing results in B2B and particularly in education. We do have the full case study links embedded, so feel free to use it. However, we also have a success hub for marketers where you can actually click through and see a beautiful treasure trove of case studies that you can segment by location, by regions, whether it's in NAMER, APAC, EMEA, or you can segment by industries, or you can segment even by ad formats. So have so much joy going through that. Now, these are the assets needed to begin. First, you pick an ad format. Second, a lead gen form, you need these three main things. What's the offer headline? What are you offering in exchange for the information that you're requesting? 2, this is the offer in detail. What webinar is it about? Do you have more descriptions to add? And lastly, a privacy policy. This is the URL required where you really explain from a legal perspective, how are you handling this data that you're collecting from the user? Is it GDPR compliant? Are you taking the necessary steps to ensure the privacy of the customers' data that you're collecting is used solely for the purpose of, let's say, acquiring them for a specific webinar series? And lastly, a thank you page. So this thank you page, thank you message, and the URL allows members to visit after the submission. So maybe once they submitted the lead to a particular webinar series that you're promoting, you can actually link them to a website of your generic company page so that they can find out more about your brand, about your company, so that they have, I would say, a positive reinforcement that they've signed up for the right thing. Now, this is how members can fill out a form. The fields that are listed here on your left are fields that a member can edit before submitting. So fields like email, work email, or phone number. Now, if a field besides email, phone number, and gender is pre-populated from your LinkedIn profile, it will not be editable. So the pros and cons of having a form that is pre-populated is that it's easy for the customer to just click submit without doing too much effort to receive the value exchange that you've provided, which is perhaps a webinar invite or a research paper. But let's say if you don't fill out with pre-populated fields, then the user has to fill it out himself. Now that's the trade-off, because when someone has to fill out himself, you might get a higher rate of accurate data, but you might also have a lower number of forms that are actually getting filled up. So what this means is that there's a trade-off. Do you want easy submissions that can't be editable, or do you want accurate information to be filled out but may not necessarily have a higher completion rate? So another thing that you need to take note of is that a member cannot submit a form with an empty section. So if, let's say, there's 4 fields and he left one blank, you will not receive that form because he is not able to submit it in the first place. Now, how do you balance this? How you can balance it is that you can create custom questions, which is around up to 3 in one form. So sometimes a feedback that we also get is that a lot of the lead generation marketers is how can they capture work email? This is because when they put work email as a pre-populated field that can be edited, sometimes is that a user is too lazy to change it or doesn't notice and just click submit. So our recommendation is to create a custom question so that way the information won't be pre-filled from the LinkedIn account. So content and form creation. So this is where you do not ask for too much information. Less is more. So 3 to 4 fields is a good best practice. If opens are high but leads are low, it could be that you have too many fields. So put yourself in the member's shoes. Remember that awkward left-right scenario. You don't want a repeat of that. Next is to be direct. Make sure your messaging matches the call to action. Keep in mind, lead forms are bottom funnel. Be upfront with the value that the member is getting by giving their information. And lastly, try not to include fields requiring manual input. That is way too much. So phone number and gender are fields that may not be listed on a member's profile already. Require the member to manually type the information in before submitting. And members again cannot submit a form with blank fields. So all lead metrics can be found in the Conversions and Leads tab of Campaign Manager. And attributing leads to a specific update or campaign. This is how you can click into the individual campaign in the Campaign Manager tool and break down the lead data by update. So download a report by ad performance or campaign performance per month. Now this is what reporting for lead gen forms look like. You should be comparing cost per conversions versus cost per lead. If testing the success of the lead form campaign versus conversions on your landing page, run conversion tracking on the campaign so that at the same time, so that you can compare costs and quality. And it's also very important that you look at post-click versus view-through, because sometimes you actually do get quite a bit of view-through conversions that would typically be missing if you just ignore it. So this is also an example of a CSV file download when you download your leads directly from Campaign Manager. And I understand when you look at this, especially if you're an agency, you get really nervous because you're like, oh my God, are we handling very sensitive customer data? So what you can do is you can also pass your leads through to your CRM or a marketing automation system so that data is very safely managed and transported from the LinkedIn Campaign Manager into your CRM tool or your marketing automation system so that then you can start nurturing your audiences through to the funnel.
All right, let's chat measuring your campaigns. Measuring the performance of your campaign is integral for lead generation activity to ensure that you're optimizing your activity to drive more results and also to communicate the ROI that you're delivering through your campaigns. A better handle on what influences your performance means that you'll have a greater influence on your ROI. So take the time to learn what performs, get deep into your campaign insights and campaign demographics. For the sake of time, we'll touch on each of these tools on a high level. The first one is campaign insights. Throughout your campaign, you can easily pull performance metrics to tell a story of the ROI that you're driving for your business. Leveraging reporting tools built right into the LinkedIn ads platform can measure how many leads you've captured from your campaigns, your cost per lead, your return on ad spend. Using this data, you can show your marketing team and your partners in sales exactly how much value you're driving for the business. With campaign demographics, you can even drill down to the types of audiences you've converted into leads, right down to their job function, company size, industry, seniority, and more. Using the data from both campaign insights and campaign demographics, you can make adjustments to your content or ad targeting. For example, you could choose to extend or pause certain creatives based on which ones are driving the most leads, or you can change your audience targeting to reach a group of professionals who are more likely to convert into qualified leads. With LinkedIn website analytics, you can measure the visitor traffic and page engagement on every page of your website. This lets you understand the types of audiences that are converting and plan content, campaign targeting, and even landing page design that improves your conversion rates and lead quality. For example, let's say you notice a particular audience of prospects is spending a lot of time on one of your product pages, but isn't taking the final action of actually downloading that case study. You can improve the content on your site to drive more conversions on that case study, or you can look to nurture those recent website visitors on that particular page with a retargeting campaign that gets more people to take the final step of downloading that content. Now, conversion tracking. It's a great way to track activity after the click. By adding the LinkedIn Insights tag, you'll be able to know whether the people who actually clicked on your campaign actually filled out the form you had on your page. Let me break down the benefits of conversion tracking for you in 3 buckets. First, you can see more complete metrics so you can see a holistic picture of your LinkedIn activity. By seeing what people do once they've clicked on your website, you can get insights about managing the customer journey and user experience that may lead to creative or campaign level optimizations. It also enables you to create more accurate conversions in your reporting, as we count a conversion when the tag actually fires. This is particularly important when you think about the thank you page after your on-site lead form. These conversions might not otherwise be captured due to bounce rates, slow page load time, or bad connections or errors. Second, it unlocks advanced features for greater ROI. In addition to retargeting website demographics, which we've spoken about, you'll be able to optimize towards on-site conversions, which can lead to a 13% reduction in CPA. Thirdly, it enriches your insights to your campaign performance, giving you more control over your optimizations and what levers you should be pulling. One final take home that I want to leave with you on conversion tracking is if you're not using conversion tracking, you're not telling your full lead generation story. So let's have a look at the two campaigns on the screen at the moment. If you're not using conversion tracking, you'd probably be looking at the metrics and see that the bottom campaign is driving a higher click-through rate and lower CPC, and rightly so, optimized towards this activity. However, what the screen doesn't tell you is which one of these campaigns actually has a higher conversion rate. You may have more traffic or interest from the bottom campaign, but a low conversion rate compared to the above campaign, leading your decision-making astray. Conversion tracking gives you the bigger picture and the ability to analyze and adapt accordingly. So let's talk about the ways you can optimize your lead generation campaigns. Now, appreciate that there's a lot going on in this slide, so I'm not going to go over this in too much detail. So make sure you whip out your phone to take a photo or grab a screenshot now so you can refer back to this regularly. The main take-home message with optimization is that it starts before you go live. Make sure you really understand what you're working with a full discovery. So things like how much content you'll have, how easy or difficult it is to create, whether you'll get feedback from the sales team on the leads that you're providing, and to understand what actually happens in the nurture stream. What does that look like? What happens to your lead once you pass it on to sales? How can you optimize your campaigns to ensure a seamless user journey? Setup. There's a lot of great wins here across ad creation, audience, bids and budget. A quick tip here is to make sure that you start off with a high CPC before you start to look at scaling it back. This helps you generate a relevancy score quickly, and if your content is performing well, it will help you win more bids cost efficiently over time. And lastly, optimizing when you're live. Remember that this requires an experimental mindset, the same one that we're talking about when we discuss targeting. Make sure you use this across your bid strategies and content as well, and refine to what works for your business and your audiences. And with that in mind, I'm going to take you through some key optimizations that you should be thinking about when you're looking at lead generation. The first one is to make sure your landing page is mobile optimized. With over 70% of clicks driven by mobile, you really want to make sure that your form is above the fold and you're rendering properly on all mobile devices. If you're unsure of how this is performing for you at the moment, head to mobiletest.me and you can really jump into the analytics. Next, make sure that you have a clear call to action. Use the thank you page URL in your campaign manager to make sure you're tracking the final step of your conversion process. If you have multiple steps in your journey, track a conversion point for each so you can diagnose where you're seeing a drop-off, if you are seeing a drop-off, and come into action with a remedy or optimization. Keep your form simple. Only ask for what you need. Leave the rest for the sales team to discover. Forms with 2 to 3 fields have the highest form completion rates. Be direct. Clarify exactly what happens when a member clicks through on your lead generation form. Ensure the journey is clear between each stage and you're managing their experience. This is a really great example by Sun Life Financial. Set expectations. Use the thank you page to let people know exactly when they can hear back from you. Is it going to be a few days? Is it going to be a few weeks? Are you going to send them an email or are you going to give them a call? Emphasize the value of what you're offering. Disarm people by telling them in the form that their content is free and there's no obligation required. Put your best foot forward. So make sure you're sending your ads out from the most recognizable brand for your target audience. So that might be from your company page, or you might have a showcase page that might do this better for you. And as we've already touched on a few times throughout this presentation, test creatives and optimize for click-through rate or form completion rates to make sure you're driving the most results. So let's optimize some campaigns together. Scenario 1. Your campaigns are seeing a high engagement and click-through rate. However, your activity isn't converting people when they actually reach your website. So when they're reaching your website, there's something causing them to drop off. The first thing I would look at is to review your landing page. Check your load time, consider if it's mobile optimized, check whether the form fill is above the fold, and perhaps you have unnecessary fields on your form that can be removed. Perhaps these questions can wait until they get to your sales team. Or perhaps it might be a great opportunity for you to trial LinkedIn lead gen forms for a frictionless experience, which includes autofill and doesn't require them to load another page, which could actually be leading to your drop-off. Another great thing to do is to have a look at your campaign demographics. So after the campaign has run for about a week, use your clip demographics to see who is most engaged by looking at it in your dashboard, which you can see on the screen at the moment. It's very clear. And then you can also identify who your low converting segments are and remove them from your targeting. All right, so scenario 2. Your ads are driving leads, however, you're having difficulty converting them into closed opportunities. What can we do? Think about the long-term experience for your leads. They've seen your content and they've now converted and downloaded one of your guides. What next? Do they continue to see only more gated content from you? Or now that they've converted once, are you showing them ungated, engaging content such as videos or blog posts to keep them warm and nurture them across the line? You can upload your leads and create a matched audience to keep them warm. Okay, scenario 3. Your demo request ad isn't driving leads. Your audience might not be ready to speak to a sales rep yet and might need more education on your value prop before they're convinced to have a go. Ensure that you have a healthy mix of content that suits a variety of different needs and stages in your customer journey. Monitor your results and apply learnings.
Thank you so much, Veena. Guys and ladies, we are finally at the last leg, putting it all together. Now, this is the LinkedIn lead gen cheat sheet where you can take a picture of this, as you can see from the camera icon at the top right, and save it for that. So next time when you set up a LinkedIn lead gen campaign, you can go through the simple 6 steps of how you can target your ideal customer persona with accurate profile-based demographic targeting. 2, how do you target people likely to convert which match audiences to engage people who've shown affinity for your brand, for example, website visitors. 3, publish content relevant to the professional mindset on mobile and desktop by leveraging sponsored content, message ads, and text ads. 4, this is how you can seamlessly collect leads using forms pre-filled with quality LinkedIn profile data, and on your website with LinkedIn autofill or directly in the LinkedIn app with lead gen forms. 5, this is how you can measure lead quality, return on ad spend, conversion ads, new site visitors acquired, and more using built-in campaign lead reporting and conversion tracking. And lastly, using campaign and website analytics to optimize your results for even greater impact. This is where you can iterate and improve so that you can run the next lead gen campaign even better than ever. And we're at the end. This is our Q&A, our invitation for you to ask us any questions and to take our survey. Our team will be online for 15 minutes and will be answering questions through the portal. So please be patient as we try to answer as many questions as we can. And there's a survey in the console at the bottom of the screen. So please take 2 minutes to complete to help us improve future sessions. And I just want to say thank you so much for your time, for your attention. We couldn't be more grateful. Thank you.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.